Hello, I'm Antoinette James, reporter in Hewakuputanga jurisdiction. Welcome to Behind the Beehive, where I look behind the corporation jurisdiction political show and try and reveal the truth. And today and over next week, I will be looking and critiquing what just went down. What did we actually see, or what didn't we see in King Charles III Coronation? As we know, we had Hipkins zip along, and who did he take with him? The other Chris, the two Chris's, Chris Luxon. And why did Hipkins decide to take his colleague in crime? Let me read what Stuff wrote. National Party leader Christopher Luxon would also attend the coronation, as Hipkins said it was important. I wonder why. Here we go, they let us know. With just a few months to the election, to invite the leader of the opposition. Who does that in a real left-right election season? Who does that? Only someone that knows that there is no left and right, there is no Labour and National, there's only one political party. They just divide themselves up to left and right, they divide themselves up to National and Labour. They had that Hegelian swing for we plebeian. So we think we have a choice. This also tells me who our next Prime Minister is going to be in New Zealand. And it's not going to be Chippy. No, it's not. It's going to be that dour character, Luxon, who's been to the Bilderberger meetings and has already had the nod. And he is actually going to be our next Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of New Zealand. Doesn't matter who we vote for, what we do, he is going to be our Prime Minister. It's done. We know the last elections were stolen from us. Why would this be any different? We know Uncle Bill Gates was all over our election in the back door there and creating the outcomes that the cabal, the globalists, the Bilderbergers, the Jesuits want us to have. They can't leave anything to accident now. They learned that in 2016 with Trump getting in, and you could argue he could still be part of that. Well, you remember, history isn't black and white. History is a bit of a grey murkiness, and we just need to discern and have a look at what is actually happening in real time and what we are seeing. What are the shifts? You know, you could say the same for Elon Musk. I've got a big question mark over his head right now, but we're seeing shifts that are certainly helping us in this war that we are in. So anyway, let's get back to the coronation. I have here some magazines and newspapers. This is the Sunday Times. This live that I'm doing now is going to be part one of a 5-part series on the coronation, and I'm going to be looking at the clothes. I'm going to be looking at the venue, the Abbey. I'm going to be looking at the carriage, at least the carriage he came back in, and I'm going to be looking at ceremony. That was the fifth one that I couldn't quite remember. So we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into those aspects and see what we can pull up, and you'll be surprised actually what we can pull up. So, but let's just step back a little bit, because the monarchy is actually an extension of the Israeli monarchy that goes back millennia, and that is King David's monarchy. And King David, when you read the Bible, that was an unconditional monarchy. Israel wanted a king. We want a king. We want a king. Other nations had a king. When you read the Old Testament, God says, don't have a king. The king will take your daughters as maidservants and take your men and put them into his army. It will cost you a fortune. and revenue and donations and taxes to keep this monarchy afloat. Don't go there, Israel. But Israel wanted a monarchy. We want to be like the other nations. That's when we read that Israel gets his first monarchy. And that monarchy monarch was Saul. He was chosen as the first monarch because, he was tall and everyone. He was so handsome. He was dark and we're just going to look fabulous on the world stage. Look at our monarchy. Who wouldn't love him? Well, we know he was a right little rotter, and he was psychological issues and mental health issues. And that's when a young boy came into the scene, and his name was David. He belonged to the smallest tribe, Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin in Israel. He belonged to a small family. But he, through Nathan the prophet, Samuel, either Nathan or Samuel, he was chosen to be the next king after Saul. Well, that didn't go down very well with Saul, and that caused a lot more anxiety and mental health issues with him. But David played the harp beautifully, because he used to play the harp when he was out looking after the sheep. And he was brought in to soothe Saul's demons. So there was a lot of rivalry. In the end, Saul turned against David, and you can read the Old Testament for yourself. Remember, the Bible is ancient text. You may not like it, but it's still an ancient text. It's still history. So you might not believe that it is the Word of God, but you'd be silly not to read it because the elite read it. They did. Did you notice in the coronation, what did Charles kiss? What book did he kiss in his coronation? The Bible. But he'll see it quite differently than we see it, and we'll look into that as we go through this series. The elite, the Masonic order, the Jesuits, the ancient mystery religion, those elites, the Luciferian, whatever you want to call their religion, it's all the same. They take the Bible and they turn it on its head. And we will look at that further going forward as well. So he was very happy to kiss the Bible because they see it with esoteric knowledge. Lucifer is their god, and they interpret the whole Bible that way. So he was totally happy to kiss it. So exoterically, it looked like a Christian ceremony. It should have been. But it's been hijacked. We see it as a Christian ceremony. That's fabulous. So if it is a Christian ceremony, we should be able to hold King Charles III to his word. But we know that he won't be seeing it a Christian ceremony. He'll be seeing it as a Luciferian ceremony. And remember, we know we've got footage of Queen Elizabeth II, her Druid ceremony before her actual coronation ceremony that looked Christian. Now, some people say she was a Christian, Elizabeth II. I sure hope she was, but we know there's a lot of things happening there in her reign that needs a lot of unpacking. I'm not here to do that today, but we know she had her Druid ceremony with her long robes and everyone else in their long robes. And we also know in Charles's coronation just a few days ago, we saw a man in dark black robes walk past the entranceway during his coronation. Someone that was just walking past the entranceway? No. High security. Whoever that person was, and I would like to suggest his Druid Jesuit robes, he was there, he was seen on purpose. Nothing happens by accident, and certainly someone looking so bizarre as that in the 21st century would not just be wandering by. It's been suggested he was the Grim Reaper. No, I didn't see his sickle. He had a rod. I suggest he was a Druid I suggest he might even have been a Jesuit in that function, because as we learn more and more, as I take you through this dialogue, this critique of the coronation, King Charles III is answerable. He is not the top dog here. He is answerable to a higher being, a higher level, a higher order. And again, we'll unpack that. So we should be looking at a Christian coronation. And for us, as people looking on, it certainly was. Remember, he is supposed to be on the throne by the consent of the people. It seems to be a little bit different, and you would have heard quite a bit when he spoke, when King Charles III spoke, that it sure looked like he was there by God himself. He's there by godly appointment. He thinks that, but really there is a consent that needs to be there. There were a lot of Christian readings. We had Sunak, the Prime Minister, reading a Christian reading out of the Bible as if he believed it wholeheartedly, or he's Hindu. So there's a conflict of interest, but he went to the right school. He's been groomed. He would never have been Prime Minister of England if he wasn't part of the cabal, if he wasn't part of the ancient mystery, if he didn't have committed himself to those Luciferian tenets. He wouldn't be in the position. We're long past actually electing, and the people never elected him, remember. So we're not looking at a regime that we have any say in. When God gave us Jesus Christ, we come under his authority by consent. We invite Jesus into our lives, into our hearts by our consent. He does not come in as a authoritative, tyrannical regime and insisting. That is Aristotelian belief. That is the elite's belief. So we need to understand that Charles III believes he has the right to rule by the authority of God, his God, and by the authority of his philosophy, the Aristotelian philosophy. So hold these conflicting ideologies together. This is the black and white of it that becomes very murky and grey. And we need to understand we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have to pull this, tease this apart so we understand. If you buy my book on Amazon, because I cannot post it to you in person now I'm out of New Zealand, you will be able to read. I've pulled it apart. You will be able to read what is actually happening here. We are revolting on Amazon, an Antoinette James publication. So the significance of the 6th of May, that's when the elites chose to have his coronation. Now, you probably have heard that that's has a 666 reference, that it was 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days from the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II. Well, this is true. I've done the calculations. It is totally true. It is 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days from that coronation. When you look at the coronation, her funeral of the 19th of September, that takes 6 months, takes you up to the 19th of March. Then 6 weeks takes you up to the 30th of April. Then 6 days takes you up to the 6th of May. The 6th of May is the birth of the moon goddess and the summer solstice. The moon goddess is Diana. It is also Isis, it's Ishtar. You can combine all these together. They all interconnect. So it's no accident that Diana's firstborn would be William, because William takes us back to William the Conqueror, who was the first William of Britain on the throne. He was from the Netherlands. He was so-called Protestant, but he was totally in the control of the Jesuit order. The Glorious Revolution, he was put on the throne. He couldn't even speak English. He was put on the throne. He was bored silly, but that was the Jesuit entrance into the throne of Britain. And so there's no surprises that he, who will be our next king, if this king who's horribly sick with gout. He's got gout. You can see it in his fingers. Gout actually ends up to the heart. So we'll see how long he lives. Then we have William on the throne, the son of the moon goddess. Also, Charles's coronation was on a full moon. 5th of May to the 9th of the 9th is what's known as a blood moon. The elite never do anything without the stars in the right position, the blood and the moon and the sun in the right position, because this is sun worship, ancient mystery religion. The flower moon. So we have that connection there. All choreographed. This is hijacked our Christian Protestant nation of Britain that sent the gospel out to the New World and to many nations around the world, has been hijacked. This is reminding me very much of who I was listening to the other day, Dr. David Martin. He was talking at the European Parliament, and he talked about when we look at the corona virus, we've been told COVID. No such thing as COVID. And he talks about 4 hijacks. If you go online, you'll find that speech wonderful if you want to get this COVID scam in a nutshell. He talks about nature was hijacked in 1965 when a lot of these gain of function laboratories started to work with the common influenza, making it that corona or the coronavirus. So nature was hijacked. He talks about science was hijacked. No independent science. Even Ardern said that her government would be the only source of truth for us poor, unthinking, naive sheeple that were going to follow her, that we weren't allowed to look further afield for the truth and look at the many scientists, the many doctors that stood up and then were destroyed through this cancel culture. Dr. David Martin talks about morality, a hijacked morality, coercion to take the jab. And this is where I was talking King Jesus, which the throne of England in the coronation, particularly in the older days, and particularly with Elizabeth II, she said and knew that her throne, she sat on that throne as someone that wasn't any more important than anyone else, but held that throne for Jesus when Jesus was to return. It was choice. We take in King Jesus by choice, consent. King Charles is forced upon us, and you'll hear some of his rhetoric. He has forced himself upon us. You try and protest, as many did on that coronation day. They were already wherever they were. They never got to London. They were arrested on suspicion of this and suspicion of that. Pre-crime, thought crime, gone, removed. And David Martin also talks about hijacked humanity. We're losing our liberties. Everything is done by lack of consent. And we have here in the coronation a globalized monarchy. You know, often people, because you hear him saying, you know, that a country of coming of age as it moves into republic. We've heard Ardern use the word republic. She said, oh, not in her prime ministership, but we get the word out there, so we start to see it as words that we're starting to hear. It preps our mind. We had Key, who tried to change the flag. That would have been a disaster for us as an independent and sovereign nation under He Whakaputanga. We have Ardern mentioning republic. Little Chippy, Hipkins, he's now talking about, oh, no, I'm not looking at a republic, but he's getting those words out. It's going to be more and more. When Luxon, who will be our next Prime Minister, gets in, we'll see how that goes then. It will change everything. We need to be moving before the next election in New Zealand, I can tell you that. Once that bulldog comes into play after the elections, you watch Ardern move really fast, changing everything and getting her pawn pieces into play and hammering us down like little circus dogs. Sit, stay, house arrest. We'll see what it looks like when Luxon comes into play. It's going to be very much worse. Hijacked. The world has been hijacked. I've told you many times that the US was hijacked. The Washington, D.C. does not belong to the US, does not belong to America. It's owned by the Vatican. It's owned by the Jesuits. It's run by the Jesuits. It's in America, but not owned by America. We have the UK, the England, we have the City of London, all over this coronation that isn't owned by England, but is owned by the Vatican, owned by the Jesuits. No monarchy is allowed in the City of London without being invited, and then he bows to that higher power that was all over this coronation just a few days ago. And we're going to talk about that. New Zealand hijacked in 1840 with the Treaty of Waitangi that supports He Whakaputanga of 1835, but a lot of trickery and hijack went on there, as many of you know, and I've done previous videos on that. Many of my videos left the internet when my YouTube channel was terminated at the beginning of 2021. I am slowly getting my act together there and just putting some of those up on Rumble and BitChute just to have that record back online. But there's many videos you can watch on that. We weren't the only country hijacked. UK, America weren't the only country hijacked. We've all been hijacked. And we need to understand that. And I think we saw that graphically in the screen. That screen that New Zealand wool was used, all the different countries that have been hijacked, owned by the Jesuits, they were written on the leaves of that tree of life, that Jesuit Masonic tree of life. We're all there. We're captured. We're owned. You would see also on the screen, particularly that front screen, the angels with their halos, ancient mystery religion. Only religions that are ancient mystery religion has halos around. One of the most obvious religion is the Roman Catholic religion, which is the ancient mystery religion esoterically, Mithraism. Individuals who claim to be Catholics, who love the Lord, they are Christians. We're not talking about them. We're talking about the structure, the organization. We're talking about ancient mystery religion, Mithraism, pantheism, the worship of Mother Gaia. And again, many of my videos go into that. My book, We Are Revolting, goes into that big time. So in a very easy manner with some illustrations so you can understand what that looks like. So that screen, King Charles III was the first monarchy to be totally screened off. Queen Elizabeth had her anointing under a canopy. Soon as we start having secrecy, we know this has got nothing to do with Protestant Christianity. So there was Charles doing whatever he was doing behind that that screen with all its symbolism, even the dove. We know the dove in Christianity has a lot to do, or is the symbol of the Holy Spirit. In ancient mystery religion, in esoteric Catholicism, no. It had the halo around it, so we're not looking at anything Christian there on that screen. And as I say, we may look at that a little bit more. That screen was put together and paid for by the City of London. So that means that screen was created, put together, paid for by the Jesuits. So that means it was put there by the Vatican. Ownership over us. That's why the Pope has his triple crown. He has 3 on his ancient mystery pine cone, which is a fertility symbol because it's always to do with debauchery and sex, and he's got his 3 crowns there. One crown is he is God and ruler over hell, God and ruler over the earth, God and ruler over heaven. He's God and ruler over our spirit, over our soul, and over our physical being. So that is just a precursor to what I'm wanting to go into over the next few days, so that we can understand what we are seeing and right now while we are living, what is actually happening right now and what are the implications for us. It is time to wake up. It is time in New Zealand to fly your He Wakaputanga flag, to be standing in He Wakaputanga jurisdiction. There are many communities that stand in He Wakaputanga jurisdiction. I do. My community stands in He Wakaputanga jurisdiction. Do you need to sign up with someone to do that? No. You do that inherently in New Zealand. You can sign up if you want to. I initially thought that would be a really great database so that we had a number of people to push back. I'm thinking less likely now. So just to remind you, I'm going to be talking about the Abbey. I'm going to be talking about the clothes we saw, not just King Charles III, but others were wearing. Very symbolic. I'm going to talk about the ceremony. Was it Christian or was it hijacked? And I'm going to talk about the carriage, the gold state carriage, the state carriage. Whose state? We presume that is the English state, the British state, don't we? We'll check that one out as well. So I'm going to leave it there today. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bless you now.